What would you do if a child you've never met whispered secrets only your lost daughter could know? Would you follow them into darkness? Or would fear keep you frozen in the safety of your grief? Samuel Wright's hands trembled as the barefoot girl spoke words that shattered 18 years of silence. She knew about the star-shaped birthmark. She knew the nickname. She knew things that should have died the day his daughter vanished. And now, standing in his pottery studio with clay dust still clinging to his apron, Samuel faced an impossible choice. Stay in the comfortable numbness of loss, or walk toward a truth that might destroy him completely. This is the story of a father who heard his daughter's voice echo from beyond the grave, a mysterious child who saw things no one should see, and a secret buried so deep beneath an abandoned chapel that the world forgot it existed. What Samuel discovered in that darkness didn't just bring his daughter home. It uncovered a horror that had been hiding in plain sight for decades, and a miracle that proved some bonds refuse to break, even when death itself tries to sever them. The scent of wet clay and sandalwood incense filled Desert Rose Studio that morning, mixing with the distant hum of Phoenix traffic. Samuel Wright stood at his potter's wheel, hands covered in earth-brown slip, shaping a vase with the kind of focus that comes from years of trying not to think. The wheel spun, his hands moved, the clay took form. This was his meditation, his escape, the only thing that kept the memories from swallowing him whole. 18 years. 18 years since Emma disappeared on her walk to Riverside Elementary. 18 years since his wife Helena stopped laughing, stopped painting, stopped being anything more than a ghost haunting their home. The police had searched. The volunteers had searched. The psychics and the con artists and the well-meaning strangers had all searched. But Emma had simply vanished, as if the desert itself had opened up and swallowed her whole. Samuel had learned to live in the space between hope and acceptance. Not quite mourning because that felt like giving up. Not quite believing because that path led to madness. Just existing day after day, shaping clay into beautiful things because he couldn't shape his life into anything that made sense anymore. The wind chimes sang above the studio door. Samuel didn't look up at first, his hands still working the clay, muscle memory taking over. "Can I help you find something?" he called out, his voice carrying the practiced warmth of a shopkeeper who'd learned to hide his broken heart behind customer service. Silence answered him. Not the comfortable silence of a browser lost in thought, but something heavier, something that made the air in the studio feel suddenly dense. Samuel finally looked up, and his hands stilled on the wheel. A little girl stood in the doorway, backlit by the harsh Arizona sun so that she seemed almost like an apparition. She couldn't have been more than 5, with wild auburn curls that looked like they'd never met a brush, and a yellow sundress so faded and torn it might have been pulled from a donation bin. But it was her feet that caught his attention first. Bare, caked in red desert dust, with scratches across the tops as if she'd been walking through thorns. "Hey there, sweetheart," Samuel said gently, wiping his hands on a towel. "Are you lost? Do you need me to call someone?" The girl didn't answer. She just stood there, perfectly still, watching him with eyes so dark they looked black in the dim light of the studio. There was something ancient in that gaze, something that made Samuel's skin prickle with a feeling he couldn't name. "What's your name, honey?" He tried again, taking a step closer. "Where are your parents? Your daughter is waiting for you." The girl's voice was small but steady, each word precise and deliberate. "She's in the cellar beneath the old chapel. She's been there a long time. She wants to come home." The world tilted sideways. Samuel grabbed the edge of his workbench, his vision blurring at the edges. For a moment, he thought he might pass out. The wheel was still spinning behind him, the lump of clay he'd been shaping slowly collapsing in on itself. Ruined. "What did you just say?" The words came out as barely more than a whisper. The girl with the wavy hair, she continued, tilting her head slightly as if listening to something Samuel couldn't hear. "The one who cries when it gets dark. The one with the star behind her ear." Samuel's legs gave out. He sat down hard on the concrete floor, his heart hammering so violently he thought it might crack his ribs. The star-shaped birthmark, hidden behind Emma's left ear, barely visible beneath her hair. They'd called it her secret star when she was little, told her it meant she was special, chosen. Only 4 people in the world knew about it. Him, Helena, their doctor, and Emma herself. Who told you that? His voice cracked, trembling between terror and something he was afraid to name. Who told you about the star? The little girl smiled, but there was no joy in it. Just a sad, knowing expression that didn't belong on a child's face. She tells me everything, Papa Sam. She misses you very much. She says you need to be brave now, Papa Sam. The nickname Emma had invented when she was 3, combining the formal and informal in the way only a toddler could. No one else had ever called him that. No one. Samuel, you all right, man? The voice cut through his spiral. Marcus Kane, one of his regular customers, stood in the doorway with a concerned expression. He looked from Samuel sitting on the floor to the little girl standing there. What's going on? Where'd this kid come from? I don't know, Samuel managed, his voice hollow. Marcus, do you recognize her? Never seen her before in my life. Marcus crouched down to the girl's level. Hey there, little one. Are you lost? Do you need help finding your family? But when Samuel looked back, the girl wasn't looking at Marcus at all. She was staring at the floor, her finger tracing patterns in the thin layer of clay dust, drawing tiny squares, tiny stick figures with arms outstretched, tiny bars like prison cells. Then she looked up at Samuel one more time, her black eyes boring into him. Tonight, she whispered. Listen, tonight. She'll knock 3 times just like she used to when she was scared. And then, before either man could react, she turned and walked out into the blazing Arizona sun, disappearing around the corner so quickly it was as if she'd never been there at all. Samuel and Marcus both ran to the door, but the street was empty. No little girl, no footprints, nothing but heat shimmer rising from the pavement. Marcus put a hand on Samuel's shoulder. That was weird, man. Really weird. You want me to call someone? The cops, maybe? Samuel shook his head slowly. I don't know what I want. I don't know what just happened. But he did know. Deep in the parts of himself he'd locked away 18 years ago, he knew. Something impossible had just walked through his door. And nothing was going to be the same again. That night, Samuel couldn't eat, couldn't focus, couldn't do anything but pace the length of their small living room while Helena sat in her chair, the TV playing to an audience of no one. She'd been like this for years now, physically present but emotionally absent, living in some gray space between the world and whatever place she'd retreated to when Emma disappeared. Samuel, you're making me dizzy. Helena's voice was flat, emotionless. Either sit down or go to another room. A girl came into the studio today. The words tumbled out before he could stop them. She knew about Emma. She knew about the birthmark. She knew about Papa Sam. Helena's head turned slowly, and for the first time in months, Samuel saw something flicker in her eyes. Anger, maybe, or fear. Don't do this. Please don't do this again. I'm not making it up, Helena. This child, she couldn't have been more than 5 years old. And she knew things. Specific things. She said Emma is in the cellar of the old chapel. She said Emma wants to come home. Stop it. Helena's voice cracked. We've been down this road before, Samuel. The psychic who said she saw Emma in California. The woman who called and said she had information but really just wanted money. The man who swore he saw her at a truck stop in New Mexico. Every single time it's been nothing but pain. Nothing but false hope that tears us apart all over again. This was different. They're always different, Samuel. And they're always the same. Helena stood up, and Samuel saw how thin she'd become, how the grief had hollowed her out from the inside. If we do this again, if we chase another ghost and it turns out to be nothing, I don't think I'll survive it. I don't think I have another heartbreak left in me. Samuel opened his mouth to argue, to convince her, to make her understand that this time really was different. But before he could speak, they both heard it. Faint, so faint it might have been imagination. But they're undeniably there. Knock, knock, knock. 3 soft taps, rhythmic and deliberate, coming from somewhere inside the walls of their house. The exact pattern Emma used to make when nightmares woke her in the middle of the night. Their secret code. I'm scared. Come find me. Helena's face went white. Tell me you heard that. I heard it. Tell me you heard exactly what I heard. 3 knocks. Samuel's voice was shaking, just like she used to do. They stood frozen in the middle of their living room, barely breathing, waiting. And then it came again, slightly louder this time, more insistent. Knock, knock, knock. Helena moved first, running her hands along the walls, pressing her ear to the plaster. Where is it coming from? Where is she? But Samuel knew it wasn't coming from anywhere in this house. This was something else. A message, a sign, a plea carried across impossible distances. He pulled Helena into his arms as she started to sob, 18 years of locked-away grief finally breaking through the dam she'd built. Tomorrow, he whispered into her hair. Tomorrow we go to the chapel. Together. The next morning, Samuel opened the studio early, even though he knew he wouldn't be able to work. His hands were too unsteady, his mind too chaotic. He barely slept, lying awake beside Helena as she tossed and turned, both of them afraid to voice what they were thinking, afraid that speaking it out loud would make it disappear like smoke. He was arranging supplies when he saw her through the window, the same little girl, sitting on the curb outside, drawing pictures in the dirt with a stick. Samuel's heart lurched. He walked outside slowly, afraid she might vanish again if he moved too fast. You came back, he said softly. The girl looked up and smiled, this time with genuine warmth. I told you she was waiting. My name is Rosie. I live with Nana Faith near the old chapel. She forgets things sometimes, but she remembers the important parts. Rosie, Samuel crouched down beside her. How do you know about my daughter? How do you know about the star and the nickname and everything? Rosie's expression grew serious. She comes to me in my dreams. Not every night, but a lot of nights. At first, I thought she was imaginary, but Nana Faith said some people can see things other people can't. She said I have 1 foot in this world and 1 foot in another world, and sometimes messages come through. Samuel felt tears burning behind his eyes. What does she look like in your dreams? Like you. Rosie tilted her head, studying his face. She has your eyes, and she's sad, but she's also strong. She says she's been waiting so long, but she never stopped believing you'd come. She says you need to hurry though. She says time is running out. Running out for what? Before Rosie could answer, an old woman appeared around the corner, moving slowly with the help of a cane. She wore a faded floral dress and had silver hair pulled back in a bun, but it was her eyes that caught Samuel's attention. They were haunted, carrying the weight of secrets too heavy to bear alone. Rosie, there you are, the woman said, her voice raspy with age. I told you not to wander off. She looked at Samuel apologetically. I'm sorry if she bothered you. She has an imagination that runs wild sometimes. You must be Faith, Samuel said, standing. Your granddaughter told me about you. Faith's expression shifted, something like fear flickering across her features. What exactly did she tell you? That she dreams about my daughter. That Emma is in the cellar beneath Riverside Chapel. Samuel watched Faith's face carefully. You know something about this, don't you? Faith was quiet for a long moment, her fingers tightening around the handle of her cane. I know that chapel has secrets, she finally said. I know my father spent 40 years as its caretaker, and I know he did things he never spoke about. Things he took to his grave. What kinds of things? The kind that keep you up at night. The kind that make you question everything you thought you knew about good and evil. Faith's eyes filled with tears. If your daughter is truly there, then she's not alone. And if you open that door, you need to be prepared for what you'll find. Samuel felt his pulse quicken. Will you help me? Will you show me? Faith looked at Rosie, then back at Samuel. Meet us there this afternoon. Bring your wife. And bring your courage, because once you know the truth, you can't unknow it. Samuel called Helena from the studio, his hands shaking so badly he could barely dial. She answered on the first ring, as if she'd been sitting by the phone waiting. It's time, he said simply. We need to go to the chapel. They drove in silence, the midday sun turning the Phoenix desert into a shimmering mirage. Riverside Chapel loomed ahead, its burned stone walls covered in graffiti and creeping vines, its boarded windows like blind eyes staring at nothing. Samuel had avoided this place for 18 years, the site where Emma was last seen, the place where his life had ended. Helena gripped his hand as they parked across the street. Her palm was ice-cold despite the heat. "I'm terrified," she whispered. "Me too." Rosie and Faith were waiting by the rusted iron gate, standing in the meager shade of a dead tree. Rosie smiled when she saw them. "You came, both of you," she said you would. Faith pulled an old brass key from her pocket, its edges worn smooth with age. "This was my father's. He never let it out of his sight when he was alive. I found it in his belongings after he passed. I've carried it for 12 years, knowing someday someone would need it." The gate shrieked as it swung open, the sound like a scream in the desert silence. They walked through the overgrown cemetery, past toppled headstones and sun-bleached plastic flowers, toward the chapel's main entrance. The door was sealed with chains and a padlock, but Faith's key fit perfectly. With a heavy click, the lock released. Inside, the chapel was a cathedral of abandonment. Pews lay scattered and broken, covered in bird droppings and desert dust. The altar was blackened from the fire that had gutted the building 17 years ago, and holes in the roof let columns of sunlight cut through the darkness like spotlights on a stage. Rosie walked ahead without hesitation, her bare feet silent on the ash-covered floor. "This way. The path is through the back, past where the priest used to prepare for services." They followed her through a narrow hallway, past rooms filled with debris and the remnants of church life. Hymnals with pages scattered like leaves, broken statues of saints with missing faces, and everywhere the smell of char and decay and something else underneath, something organic and wrong. Rosie stopped in front of a heavy steel door, half hidden behind a collapsed bookshelf. Helena gasped. "I remember this door. They used it to access the old storage cellar. After the fire, the city inspector said it was structurally unsound. They were supposed to seal it permanently. Someone did," Samuel said, running his fingers along thick welding lines that covered the door's seams. "This is new, recent. Why would someone weld this shut?" Faith's face had gone pale. "My father used to come here every week. Even after the fire, even after the city condemned the building. He said he had to check on things, had to make sure everything was secure. When I asked him what he meant, he'd just smile and say some responsibilities don't end just because the world stops paying attention." What was he protecting? Helena's voice was barely audible. Before Faith could answer, they all heard it. Faint but unmistakable. 3 knocks from behind the steel door. "Knock! Knock! Knock!" Helena's legs buckled. Samuel caught her as she fell against him, her entire body shaking. "That's her. Oh my God. That's her code. Emma!" Samuel pounded on the door twice in response. The immediate answer came back, frantic and desperate. "Knock, knock, knock." More insistent now, pleading. "We have to open it," Samuel said, looking around wildly. "We need tools, something to break through the weld." In the corner, nearly hidden under a tarp, Samuel found an old maintenance closet. Inside was a sledgehammer, its handle worn but solid. He grabbed it and swung before anyone could stop him, putting every ounce of 18 years of grief and rage and desperate hope into the blow. The impact sent shockwaves up his arms. Sparks flew from the weld. Helena covered her ears at the deafening clang. Samuel swung again and again, each strike sending chips of metal flying, each impact widening the crack in the seal. "Samuel, wait," Faith said, her voice shaking. "Before you open that door, you need to understand. My father wasn't a monster. He was just a man who made impossible choices. He was just trying to save the ones everyone else had forgotten." "What are you talking about?" But Samuel didn't wait for an answer. One more massive swing and the weld split completely. The door groaned, then swung inward on rusted hinges, releasing a blast of cold, stale air that made them all gag. The smell was overwhelming, mold and rust and human waste and desperation. Samuel aimed his flashlight into the darkness. The beam caught on a narrow staircase descending into blackness, its walls covered in children's drawings. Hundreds of them, thousands, crayon stars and stick figure families and houses with smoke curling from chimneys. Messages of hope drawn by small hands in the dark. Helena grabbed Samuel's arm. What is this place? Rosie stepped forward, her small voice cutting through the horror. It's where the forgotten ones lived. The ones no one came looking for. My grandfather gave them shelter when the world gave them nothing. From deep below, a voice rose up the stairs. Female, hoarse from disuse, but carrying a strength that made Samuel's heart stop. Papa Sam? Is that really you? I've been waiting so long. I knew you'd come. I never stopped believing you'd come. Samuel's flashlight beam found the bottom of the stairs. And there, blinking in the sudden light, was a young woman. She had wavy brown hair matted with dirt, clothes that were little more than rags, and 18 years of survival etched into her face. But when she looked up at him, he saw his daughter's eyes. And behind her left ear, barely visible beneath her tangled hair, was a small star-shaped scar. Emma, Samuel breathed. Then he was running down the stairs, Helena right behind him, both of them sobbing as they reached their daughter and pulled her into their arms for the first time in 18 years. She's real. She's alive. She's here. The words kept tumbling from Helena's mouth as she held Emma's face in her hands, as if touching her would make her more real, more solid, less likely to disappear again. But as Samuel's flashlight beam swept the cellar, he saw they weren't alone. There were mattresses arranged along the walls, at least a dozen of them, blankets and pillows, shelves with canned food and bottles of water, and shoes. So many small shoes lined up neatly by the wall, sorted by size like a store display. How many? Samuel asked, his voice hollow. How many children were down here? Emma's eyes filled with tears. 17 at last count. Some stayed for a few months, some for years. We took care of each other. We made a family out of broken pieces. A sound made them all turn. From the shadows at the back of the cellar, an old man emerged, moving slowly with the aid of a cane. He was impossibly thin, with white hair and papery skin and eyes that held oceans of regret. But when he spoke, his voice was surprisingly strong. I was wondering when you'd finally come. Jonathan Reeves, at your service. Former caretaker of Riverside Chapel. Current guardian of the children the world threw away. You did this, Samuel snarled, stepping in front of Emma protectively. You kept her here. You stole 18 years of her life. Jonathan shook his head slowly. I didn't take her. I found her, just like I found all the others. Children who fell through the cracks, who ran from abuse, who had nowhere else to go. The system failed them, so I gave them shelter, food, safety, place to belong. Liar. Helena screamed. You're a kidnapper. A monster. Jonathan's expression didn't change. Think what you will, but ask your daughter the truth. Ask her who took her that day. Ask her what she was running from. Samuel looked at Emma, confused. What is he talking about? Emma's voice was soft, broken. There was a man at school. He'd been watching me for weeks, saying inappropriate things. That day, he followed me. He tried to grab me. I ran and I ended up here. I was hiding in the old cemetery when Jonathan found me. She was terrified, Jonathan said quietly, shaking so hard she could barely speak. She said the man would kill her if she went home, that he knew where she lived. I didn't know what to do. I knew if I called the police, she'd be sent back into a system that had already failed to protect her. So I gave her a choice. I offered her sanctuary until we could find another way. I wanted to go home, Emma whispered, tears streaming down her face. But he said the man was still out there, still watching. He said I had to wait until it was safe. And then weeks turned into months and months turned into years, and I didn't know how to go back. I didn't know if you'd even want me anymore. Please like, share, and subscribe. Every interaction helps us reach someone who needs to know they're not forgotten. Comment below. I believe in kindness.